Hi Year 3, now welcome to Wednesday's English lesson where we are going to start writing our instructions for the sandwiches that we made on Monday. Now I'm still going to be focusing on jam sandwiches, but if you made it slightly differently then be creative and put what you have done in the instruction writing today. We've got our two initiates here. Now, the first thing that I'd like us to think about is focusing on our lens of taste. So what do the sandwiches taste like? How do they taste? Now, we're going to try and use positive words here because we're not going to want negative taste words. Otherwise, nobody's going to want to try our sandwiches. So in your first box, can you jot down some positive ways to describe how the sandwiches taste? Okay, so we might have words like succulent or sweet, delicious, tasty, mouth-watering, all those kind of positive taste words. Now we're going to try and make our title into an alliteration. So an alliteration is when we have two or three words, maybe even more, that start with the same sound. So often they start with the same letter, but with the same sound. So I have already chosen my taste words with the S sound. And because I'm making a sandwich, so I'm going to try and make sure that my alliterations also start with the S sound. You might want to do it slightly differently. It's completely up to you. But in this alliteration here, we need to try and make some form of alliteration in this title. We need to think of some adjectives we can use to describe the sandwich that will form an alliteration. So in your second box, can you jot down some adjectives to form an alliteration, please? Okay, so I have chosen star, super, shiny. I was running out of S positive words at the end, so I'm not sure we can have shiny sandwiches, but it makes it sound very exciting for people. So I'm now going to use my adjectives and my taste words to come up with a title that is an alliteration. So I have got succulent star sarnies. So I went for a different word rather than sandwiches just to make it a little bit more exciting. But I've managed to get each of my words to start with the same sounds. They're all in alliteration. And this succulent word is my taste word. So I would like you to now do the same. So come up with a title that has a positive taste word and some form of alliteration for me, please. Okay, so let's move on to our second learning chunk. Now, this is all based around the hook, but we are going to focus on this rhetorical question to start with. Now, a rhetorical question is a question that we can't expect to be answered, but that makes the reader think in a certain way. So we use them in our letter to encourage the felt tip pens to really think about if they wanted to be on strike. And now we're going to use a rhetorical question to encourage someone to try this recipe. So I've got two sentence starters here that could make a question. So fed up and want to. Can you use those as start of a question to encourage people to try your recipe? So pause the video and jot those ideas down in your third box, please. Okay, so the ones that I came up with were fed up with boring lunch, want to try something new. If I say those in my recipe, people are going to be like, yeah, actually, I'm fed up with my lunch. I do want to try something new. Let me continue reading this recipe and try and find something super exciting for lunch. So that's my first initiate of my rhetorical questions. Okay, so our second initiate is focusing on conjunctions. So we're going to say, are you fed up with having your lunches? Boring? Do you want something else? Then follow this recipe. But I want us to see if we can come up with another word for then as our conjunction. So if you could pause the video and in your fourth box, jot down some other words for then, please. Okay, so I've got examples, then, if so, therefore. So this hook that we're going to do will include our rhetorical question and our conjunction. This is an example. Fed up with boring sandwiches? Want something more exciting for lunch? If so, then follow these simple steps to make a delicious, mouth-watering treat. So I've used my rhetorical questions to get my audience to think about if they're fed up with their lunch. I've then used my conjunction and then told them what they should do. I've also included some positive taste words again, just to make it really obvious that actually this is a delicious meal and that you want to try it and you want to follow our instructions. So pause the video, include some rhetorical questions and a conjunction, and try and persuade people to follow this recipe. 5 to 10 minutes and then come back to me. Okay, so this is our third learning chunk now. So this is where we're going to talk about all the things that we need to be able to complete our recipe. So I've chosen 3 nouns here of things that you most likely use to make your sandwich. And I'd like you to think of some adjectives that we could put in front of them just to make them a little bit more exciting in our list. So pause the video and can you come up with some adjectives for these 3 things, please? Okay, so I've chosen things like sharp knife, your favourite jam, and smooth butter. But you can have lots of different things as long as they're positive and they encourage people to like this recipe. Okay, so our last initiate today, we're going to be focusing on the punctuation of brackets. Now, brackets we haven't done very much at all, but this is where we can add a little bit of extra information into a sentence, or in this case, into our bullet point list. So I want us to think about, this is all to do with what we need. So what do we need to be as a person to be able to eat this? Now have a little think, it's quite a difficult thing, so I'll give you a clue. But the idea of like, if I had hunger pains, then I probably want to follow this recipe because I want to eat something and fill up my tummy. So in your last initiate box, could you think of some things that you need to be or have as a person to want to follow this recipe? Okay, so on top of hunger pains, I also have got things like an empty stomach. So all those sorts of things. So this is our shape, focusing on all the things we need, and we're going to use our adjectives and our brackets. So I've put my my subheading here of what you need. I haven't put ingredients and equipment. I've kind of combined it all as one. So what you need: 2 slices of white bread, small amount of butter, your favourite flavour of jam, a sharp knife, decorative plate to eat it off of, your chosen shape cookie cutter, an empty stomach. It will fill it up nicely. So I've included my adjectives all the way through all the things that I need. And then I've also done on the end my brackets. So I've talked about I have an empty stomach, and then I've used my brackets to say that this will fill it up nicely. So that's my little bit of additional information. I only need to know that I have an empty stomach, but I've added some detail on the end that says like it will fill it up nicely, or get rid of those hunger pains, something like that as well that you can put on the end. So what I'd like you to do now is to start with your subheading of what you'll need, write a list of everything you need, including your adjectives for me, and then have a go at adding some extra information using the brackets. Come back to me in about 5 or 10 minutes when you've done that, please. Okay, so that was your beginning of your instruction writing where we've done our hook and everything that we need. Have a lovely day, guys, and I will see you very soon.